Welcome back to Friday at 5, where we discuss issues which are important for every educator. Today, we are going to be talking about learner-centric pedagogy and curriculum. Now, this is an important aspect because of two reasons. First, the National Education Policy 2020 lays a lot of emphasis on moving towards the learner-centric pedagogy in the coming years. So as we start the third decade of the 21st century, over the next 10 years or so, a lot of our educators, a lot of our schools will need to incorporate practices which are more learner-centric rather than the traditional method of education being driven by teachers. And so that's going to be one big reason why we need to understand this. And the second important reason why it's very relevant for us is because of the way technology has penetrated education over the last 6 to 7 months after COVID-19 struck us. For blended learning, I think most of us who are joining us from everywhere across India and the Middle East, we all are pretty much convinced that by 2025, all of us would definitely be using technology to interact with our students. So blended learning is going to stay. The blended learning is going to be part of the education system. And for blended learning to be successful, it's extremely important that students, the learners, take control of their learning, because that's how blended learning really works. It works well only when the learners are in control of their own learning. And for that to happen, the processes we use for learning, the curriculum that we use for learning has to appeal to our students, because they will not want to control something that doesn't appeal to them. And it's going to appeal to them only if it satisfies their needs, their requirements, and their learning styles. The third important reason is that the students who we are teaching now are really digital natives. They were born in the era of digital technologies surrounded by them. They use mobile phones before they can read a book. They watch videos before they can, interact with anybody or attend a lecture. So they are used to technology in a very big manner. Understanding the needs of these digital natives and the characteristics of these digital natives is one of the important aspects of being able to implement learner-centric pedagogy and curriculum. To talk on this issue, we have two eminent experts from education. Dr. Rajesh Hasija is known to everybody. He is one of the leading school leaders. I think you would have, anybody who's associated with ICSL would have definitely met him. He has been supporting us from the day ICSL was born. And I welcome you, sir, for joining us. And we also have Dr. Ap Sharma, an eminent educationist who is currently the principal of Birla Public School in Qatar. So he joins us from far off, making us, thank you very much, sir. Thank you for coming on the show. And without wasting much time, the way we want to do this is that we would like to entertain as many questions as possible from our audience. I know some of you have already raised your hands, but if that's a mistake, you can probably lower your hand. Otherwise, I'll have to call you to speak. So Vinita and Tusha, if you have mistakenly raised your hands, please lower it down. So we would invite questions from our audience in the last half an hour. And the first half an hour, we'll look at some of the important issues that we need to talk about. And the first question that I would like my panelists to address is that what is their opinion on whether learner-centric pedagogy is going to be a reality over the next decade? Is it something that we need to get ready for now? Or is it going to be just another one of those visions on paper which never comes to the surface ever? So, the first big question is, how seriously should we take this transition from teacher led education to learner centric education? Rajesh ji, your views on that, and then I'll invite Mr. Sharma for that.
Hi, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening, Mr. Panelist, Mr. Sharma, Dr. Atul. You are saying that whether we shall be able to achieve that vision of learner-centered approach. And my response would be, if we haven't achieved so far, then probably we are lacking behind like anything. There was a time, when teacher used to teach the way uh, children used to learn the way teacher used to teach. But probably the late 20th century, this has already come when teachers started teaching the way children learn it. That means the focus has already shifted from the instructor center to the learner center. What exactly is learner center? I just take a little brief on this one. Dear educators, you know when there is a shift of focus, and what is that focus? Focus of instructions. When you shift these instruction, their focus from instructor to learner, then we say we are heading towards a learner-centered approach. Please refer to the chairman CBSE's announcement that we are shifting to competency-based education and assessment. What is that competency-based? And it is not something new. Recall Mahabharata, I every time say Dronacharya used to teach, in that ashram, the Gurukul, the Arjun picked up archery and the Bhim picked up Gada. Same curriculum can never be there. We have to come to the learner center approach. And in the learner center approach, there is an engagement between the learner, between the content, and between the instruction. Mind it, here it is instructor is silent. I'm again say there's an engagement between the learner, between the instructions, and between the content. And now learner tries to pick up the content at his or her own pace, own difficulty level, and own way of understanding. And that is one thing which we need to derive now if we haven't done so far. And new education policy 2020 very clearly says we have to achieve this, else, dear friends, PISA ranking India was 72 out of 73. 72 out of 73 PISA ranking, that will remain there. Thank you, Atalji. Over to you.
Unmute here.
Yeah, Mr. Sharma, I would like to have your views on this. How much do you think is important for schools and teachers to start thinking about implementing learner centric pedagogy?
Yeah, first of all, thank you very much, Mr. Atul, and my friend. I will not say old friend because old has two meanings. So my friend, Mr. Asija, we had been together for many, many years, and we are associated to each other. This is a very beautiful topic you have taken. The idea is that teacher used to think in our education system, particularly India, that whatever I say is the Brahma Vakya, is the last word. And then he used to expect that child should write the same thing what I have taught. So in between these two things, somewhere the connection and the learning was lost. And very aptly, Mr. Hasija conveyed about PISA. And fortunately, I'm an advisor to Ministry of Education in India now for the PISA, especially last year I worked for that because in Gulf countries, few schools took it up very nicely. And very proudly, I can say that my school, uh, if you look at the points, then my school was at 20th position in the world. So that was a very big thing as far as the marks are concerned. Like 568 was a very amazing kind of thing. And how could we do it? And this is the crux of the thing, that until and unless teacher thinks that he or she is a facilitator, he or she is not giving the last word. Rather, child will take the last word in his or her own way. Mr. Asija told very nicely that the time has come that everybody must realize that child wants to learn the way he wants to learn. He doesn't want to learn the way the teacher wants to teach him or the teacher wants him to learn. So that's a basic difference, and it's a big challenge. After the NEP has come, the things will change. Things will change in progressive schools, but it will be very difficult to change the things in rural areas and other schools which are just working on a stereotype. Because here, when we talk about the learner-centric model, it is completely inquiry based. This means we have to give opportunity to learner to ask as many as questions he can or she can, because the complete propagation of this model and this concept is based on inquiry. And here what happens, the teacher throws some questions, then children ask some questions, and the progression happens. There is a peer collaboration when peer is asking question and peer is another student is answering the question. And the most important thing is, after everything, when the concept is taught, there is reflection quiz. In the reflection quiz, you can really identify, you can diagnose which part of this chapter or which part of this content has not been transferred correctly or has not been learned correctly. This means we have to revisit it. And we call it diagnosis. Like we were doing the formative assessment. That was the part of diagnosis, but unfortunately, 90% of the schools took it as a unit test.
Yes.
After diagnosis, like just few days back, with the professor of Nottingham University, I was conducting one workshop with the Malaysian educationists, and there were many teachers of K-12 level. And I proposed one very interesting word, and everybody liked it. And the third time I'm using this word, that not only diagnosis, one more important thing is prognosis. What does it mean? That just like a doctor, when a doctor, one patient goes to a doctor and he complains that I have this problem and this problem, and doctor come to a conclusion that this person is having malaria. He will give chloroquine to this particular person, but will prognosis that what will be the effect of this medicine. Maybe this person will feel a little bit weak, so he will give B complex. He will give some other kind of things, some other vitamins and some other kind of things. Maybe that this person will feel the problem of acidity, so he will give him Pan-Am or something. Similarly, here also, when certain kind of diagnosis is done, the teacher has to see whatever answer, whatever conclusion he or she is giving, child is not only happy with that. Rather, it should not come at a conclusion that he is having two more problems. So the teacher has to identify, prognosis this whole concept that, okay, these are three things I can foresight when I will explain this. This is another problem that may arise. And this is another problem. These are side problems which may arise. Then child will be happy. And I am a firm believer that until and unless we go with the learner-centric approach in 2025, we will not be able to survive, because the time will come when the world will be ruled by different kind of professions which are nowhere right now. By 2030, there will be more than 150 such kind of professions which are not in existence. But who will rule them? All those children will rule who are very good in soft skills, who are very good in certain kind of logics, who know how to answer, who can observe, and who can actually inference. So now acquisition of knowledge is not important. The important is creation of knowledge, and then innovativeness with certain concepts on its own. Thank you, sir.
Sir, I think you've raised very, very good points. I think you have really talked about some of the best practices to be implemented if we want the learner-centric approach to be implemented. So you're absolutely right. It's important for us to move to a questioning era. We should have, peer learning as one of the big goals. We should have data driven assessment so that we can learn from it and make corrections to our teaching and learning processes. And you have also made one statement where you said that a lot of progressive schools would do it, but it would be very challenging for schools in rural areas to be able to implement such things. Now, if we have 350,000 private unaided schools in the country, um, I think most of them, a vast majority of them, are budget schools. And sometimes the management of these budget schools also does not understand the importance of implementing such reforms in their schools. So I have two questions, which I can divide between both of you. My first question is how important it is for the school management to support these initiatives if they have to come to the classrooms. How critical is, for the teacher, how critical is the support of the school management? And the second question is that let us assume that I am a teacher and I'm teaching in a small school in a small town in India, and my school management doesn't understand learner-centric pedagogy or doesn't want to implement that. Okay, can I still do it in my classroom? And if I can still do it in my classroom, what are the things that I would have to do without the support of the school management? So the first question, um, maybe to Dr. Hasija, sir, how crucial is the school management and school leadership support for these kind of initiatives? And then, Mr. Sharma, I would like to ask you, let's assume that the school management is not providing that support. Can teachers, because I think 60% of our audience are teachers, and the fact that on Friday evening they have logged on from their homes to attend this program, they are learners. They want to implement good things. That is why they are here. So suppose their school does not support this, can they still do it on an individual level in their classroom? And what are the kind of things they have to do? So Dr. Hazija, first, over to you.
Thank you, Atulji. I would take an example. Suppose Dr. Ap Sharma, he's heading a huge school. He has one teacher who is exceptionally good. He gives the result, children love him, parents are very happy. He wants to resign and wants to leave. Would AP Sharma ji allow him? No. Would have a 100-time discussion, negotiation with him. I'm coming to the point, whether management supports you or not, that is a secondary, irrespective way. Why one needs a support of the management? Now let me come to this point on. When you teach in the classroom as a teacher, there is a transaction of curriculum. You are the master of the class. You look innovative ways to help children understand the content which you want to deliver. The learner centered approach, when we are talking, it's basically you are designing the lesson keeping in mind the children's competency. So transaction is exactly the same way. Probably people are thinking that when if I'm designing the learner centered approach, I need a huge technology. Forget that one. I'm so happy AP Sharma sir took up a concept of reflection. I strongly believe, my dear educators, that there are 4 point cycle in a process of teaching learning. Number one, it is called connect with your children, and it is not necessary you require any tool, whether it's right now, fine, it is a going on online classes, whether it's online, offline, or blended. Connect means you are able to read the eyes, you are able to read that smile of the child, and you are able to interpret it. That kind of the connect is required. It connect could be through text, could be picture, could be one to one, whichever way you feel it's good, go ahead with that. Then comes to reflect. Allow through multiple ways the child, the learner reflects. Now, idea of reflection is you are able to assess how things are progressing. Then comes to inquire, engage your learner in a different methodology. When you are able to identify, arouse their interest, and allow them to know number of things, because when they asking a question actually is a part of assessment. You are able to understand whether child is getting things or not. Then comes to discussion again. Sharma ji said peer to peer collaboration, that's one thing called discussion. So connect, reflect, inquire, and discussion. These are the four aspects, my dear friends. You don't require any big technology at all. And computer or any high end devices, they have come just now. Use a piece of paper, use your chalk, use your pen. They are the great tools. You don't need any big technology. Coming to the learner center approach is on your way. When you are transacting the curriculum, you have to keep in mind the competency of the child. You have to keep in mind the pace of the learning of each child. You have to keep in mind the way child understand. You have to keep in mind the difficulty level of each child, and then have the progression of lesson. I take one more minute. Somebody has written with a class of 50, in a question answer it is written, I'm just now taking, how it is possible or CBS to redefine the curriculum. Why? Curriculum is a big word. CBSE only designs syllabi. Please understand, my dear friends. CBSE gives you syllabi, and there are three terms called coverage of syllabus, uncoverage of syllabus, and discoverage of syllabus. If you are an ordinary teacher, you only cover the syllabi. If you are a charge person, you uncover the syllabi. But if you are an inspiring facilitator who ensures the learner based learning, you together with the child, encouraging an environment, having peer to peer collaboration, discover the syllabi. Thus, there is nothing like the number of children in the class or the syllabi. It is you who is the role model which matters. Thank you, Atulji.
Thank you, sir, and thank you for asking two of the questions also that came. Mr. Sharma, I think Dr. Hasija did mention that teachers don't need to depend or need the support of the management to do it. But I have a question which is very relevant. We have been hearing for a very long time that teachers not do not need to be the sage on the stage, but they need to be the guide on the side. This whole transition from being in control, I am going to teach, to being mentor, right? How would a teacher go about transforming himself from the person who's, driving the chariot to guiding how to drive a chariot? Over to you, sir.
Yeah, it is. It's a very interesting question. So I will mix up both the questions. The one question initially, which was related to me, with this question.
Yes, yes.
You asked, how can a teacher do? See, India had been an example for many people, and right now the best example is Ranjit Singh Desale. He's the guy who has got the Global Teachers Award in a village. And what he did, he initiated very interesting kind of things in education without resources. He learned the language of that particular village. He got into the girls' education, helped them, and he was the one who initiated such kind of things which we call now hallmark, and those kind of things which we can take up. And after that, few state governments and CBSE also took that. So If he can do, there are so many teachers, and among participants also, there are so many teachers. They have fire in belly that they want to do something. Only thing is there should not be discouraged. There should not be any kind of discouragement from the management, and they can do it. They will do it, and they had been doing it. Now, when we talk about how a teacher can do this, now see, fortunately, I'm working with one of the state in India on the NCF framework, and as a pilot, we started this process in one of three of the schools in that particular state. And what we did that we divided the students on the basis of three groups, and we told those teachers that you try to teach this way, and then we will measure that how much success we are getting. So first was personalization. Personalization means we try to identify what kind of multiple intelligence groups are surviving in this particular class. We did it for class 5. Now, you know it very well. According to Howard Gardner, there are linguistic, visuals, naturalist, bodily, kinesthetic. There are 6, 7, 8 type of the multiple intelligences. So we identified. Then we differentiated. The second aspect was differentiated. In differentiation, the all groups learn. And the third was individualization of education. This means individual instruction. So in these groups, when we started, so whatever the teacher was teaching, everybody will agree that in a mixed class, when you teach, every moment when you are teaching, you are addressing not more than 40% of students. Because when you are talking high level, then other students are yawning and few students are considering it's like a bouncer. Same way, when you come to the level of the average students or the students who wants a little bit remediation and extra help, the others are thinking, oh, it's too low. So here, what we did, we when we started one group, which was the group of gifted students, we simultaneously give them exercise. These was so in one particular class, there were three kind of exercises, means 3 degree of difficulties. Similarly, when we individualized, we came to know that these are the students, when till and unless you will go there, close to their bench and will look at them, they will not start. And then they will start. And once they start, they do great. As Mr. Asija said about the connect, actually, in the lesson plan, year before last year, I suggested this particular thing to Nottingham University that in lesson plan, international lesson plan, first thing should be connect. And this connect is nothing to do with education. Like as soon as you are entering in the classroom, then you see 40, 50 or 25 students. They are all batteries, and these batteries, few are fully charged, few are not fully charged, few had a bad time in the morning, and different kind of things. So first thing is you have to charge them. And like I was telling it in one of the World Education Summit. So somebody asked me, sir, can you prove this? I said, I can prove this. And then I started one pick. I picked a word, and then I said, okay, there were around 500 principals from different countries on the desk. There were panelists from 5 different countries. So I said, okay, in between, I will be asking you, aha, and then you have to say, oh, in the same tune, whatever way I say. If I say, aha, you have to say, oh, ho. If I say, aha, then you have to say, oh, ho. I did it. The first time there were 50%. Second, third time, 100% people were answering it, because I said, anybody, any table who is not be answering, I will be asking a question. I was panelist as well as the moderator of that session. And that became hit. After that, I conducted 10 workshops for principals, and everybody, they were saying, sir, pick up some that kind of thing. Sometimes I picked shakalaka boom boom. I'm saying shakalaka, they are showing something connect. So it's very important that you bring every student at the level of full energy, so they are good receivers. Once they started receiving, then the metacognitive aspect will start working. Give child a chance where he approves the plan, he or she only approves the strategy, and he or she only will reflect, assess, and will do the SWOT analysis. Now, how teacher will find it useful and important and easy, that teacher will guide. And sir said very clearly, Rajesh sir said very clearly that we are talking about NCF. It is unfortunate that in our country, we were completely following the NCF sometimes or syllabus. But the problem is there should be some keywords, and there is no freedom. There is no freedom here. Teachers think, but there is complete freedom. You can pick up one keyword, and then you can go in the ocean of learning. So it is not syllabi, or it is not NCF. This was a spoon feeding. Okay, this much will come. Everything will come from NCRT book. Everything will come from reference book or whatever is written with that. The teacher has to come out, and teachers can do it. But yes, teacher have to broaden their horizon of learning. And I'm telling you, the teacher who are a learner, they will enjoy, because children will certainly ask them some challenging questions, and their cognitive skills, which were sleeping for a few years, will arise, and there will be new learning from both for the child as well as for the teacher. Thank you, sir.
That is so true. But one of the things that, and I want to start taking up questions because we are at 5:30. So Vinita Bhatnagar, you have raised your
Can
hand.
can I just add here, sir?
Yes,
Before
sir,
we,
absolutely.
I'm sorry, my apology.
No, no, not at all.
What aptly Sharma ji said, the teacher who are learner. Remember, in our culture, teacher is referred as Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesh, who is, creator, caretaker, and destroyer. I repeat, creator, caretaker, and destroyer. When Chanakya picked up Chandragupta, he immediately shifted to learner center to train him to become a king. Chandragupta otherwise was not ready at all. This is Chanakya who transformed him. Every one of us, an educator, is actually a Chanakya. Probably we need to revisit our own self. We have all abilities. We are not lacking anywhere. Probably we are not yet experiment this in the classroom because we are still focused with cover the syllabi and have a 99% result. Forget about these result and coverage. Come to discovery. Moment you start writing your lesson plan for the discovery of the content, believe it, these things automatically will happen. Thank you, Atulji.
Thank you, sir. I think you very rightly said that the potential is already there. The seed is in us, all us teachers, and we just need to, make sure that the seed germinates and comes out, and the flowering part will definitely result in. So let me bring some questions in. Tushar, are you there? Tushar, sorry. Tusha, Garima, and Anita Khurana. Sudhanshu, are these people there? Okay, we have Tusha. I'm going to lower your hands. See, if in case you have raised your hands by mistake, uh, please fix that issue. Is Garima there? Garima Singh? Anita, okay. Meenu Singh. I think some people are. Geeta Kadia. Okay, any of you guys want to ask a question, just unmute yourself.
Tusha
And
is there already. Tusha is.
okay. So I'll take up one question from the panel that had come.
Tusha, unmute yourself. She is muted. Tusha, unmute yourself.
Yeah, she is unmuted. Now she can ask.
Yeah, Tusha, go ahead.
She is still muted, sir.
Okay, so one question that has come from Arathi Nagaraj. Has any thought been given to multi-age classroom groupings? For learner-centric to be successful, I feel this is very important. So is there any so multi-age classroom? I mean, I guess it means that students of class 6th or 7th can learn together based on their levels of competency. So Dr. Hasija, would you like to take up this question?
Number one, India still has thousand and thousand of the schools where is a single teacher system at primary level, and the multi-age group is already there. What is wrong with the multi-age group and what happened? See, this concept evolved that teacher is busy with the same level of learning. But tell me, when you are handling the 40 children, 40 might have a same physical age, but their intellectual level may be different. Your concern has to be the the how do you feed to the different level of learning. And for that, therefore, I'm coming to this one. When you are designing your syllabi, coverage of syllabi or discoverage of syllabi, when you are working on the pedagogy, work out in such a way that you are able to look into the every age group. You have activities. When Atulji said that management approval is required, it's not as you work out seven kind of the methodology. You could have a project work with one group. You could have a gamification with another group. You could have a peer-to-peer collaboration and learning on different themes in another group. You can create eight such group in the classroom, where even if there is a different age group, and when you're working on competency based, when you're working on learner center, the different age group is bound to come. You should pick up how do you handle this one. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. Arati, does that answer your question? If not, you can unmute and always ask a follow-up question. Rachna says, Rachna Gupta has a question. Can you please guide as to kindly explain how the strategies mentioned by you can be taken up for class 9th to 12th? That's Rachna Gupta. So, Mr. Sharma, would you like to take this up slightly?
Yeah, see, whatever class it be, class 9 to 10, 12th, rather it's a group whose foundation has already been made. So you can really identify about what is the concept and how the learning can happen. Very simple thing is that in learning process, you have to make it a personalized learning, getting into a deeper learning. How you can do this? Involve children in some kind of activities. Like Rajesh sir said, that in class 9 to 12, if you want to develop a strategy for different kind of students. For example, in our school, we prepared we had one very interesting strategy for 10th and 12th. The students who were the weakest, I gave them a very beautiful concept of self-paced development. And this self-paced development was so nice that the local government adopted it in their government schools. What I did that I told these students who were the weakest in the classroom, I said, okay, we will give you cycle test. And cycle test, first test when we will give you 5 questions. And these 5 questions will be the question which you will pick up. This means whole paper is out. After 2 days, we will give you 10 questions. 5 will be your choice and 5 will be our choice. Similarly, next time there will be 5 choice, 5 of your choice and 10 of our choice. The impact was this, that children could improve 40% more, or sometimes in some cases 2 times or 3 times more, because they gain confidence. Otherwise, you keep taking their test and every test they would be scoring below 10, sometimes 4, sometimes 8, sometimes 3, and you can't actually find out what is the scoring, what is the improvement. For the brilliant ones, you give them certain kind of questions which are challenging and are related to accelerated learning, hot type of questions, and children can share among them. And if there are some questions, they can discuss among themselves, and teacher can also get into the picture to discuss, because learning should happen. Once the child will think that this is the limit and this I have to learn, he will mug it up. He will not learn. And he or she will think that there are application based questions, that from this particular concept of 5 lines on a one paragraph, there can be 10 type of questions which are based on application, which are based on logic, why, how, all. Then he will or she will try to learn. So process, and the biggest thing which the CBSE is thought of this only. That's why they are bringing case studies, they are bringing reasoning type of questions, and slowly they will bring it to 80%. So when it is 20%, 40%, such kind of questions, children will start learning. Mugging just will slow down. So helping 9 to 12th in this way is an amazing example.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you very much.
And children can frame questions.
And and I can tell you that as a teacher of mathematics, in ninth class is where probability is introduced, and it goes on till class 12th. And the entire probability can be taught without really opening the book, and let students discover probability on their own by taking simple examples. So it's not that we need to stick to covering, giving the definitions on the board. It's a different way to do that, but yes, you have to go deeper into the subject to try to understand how it can be done for each specific subject. Arati, you wanted to clarify something. Can you speak up and maybe you want to clarify? Can you unmute yourself, Arati?
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure. So thank you. I was actually in the multi-age, I was actually referring to, how the Montessori style does the multi-age classrooms where you have groupings across three ages and not using this. I know CBSE and all the boards do the by age, by class, and then that's how you can really design activities and lessons to cater to all the different learner centric, really focus on the learner centric aspect of it because um, you know children learn at different paces, they learn different things at different times, they have spurts of learning, so you can really cater to that. You can then have older children teaching the younger children, or younger children teaching the older children too. So that's where I'm coming from, is how, what has any thought been given into this? I know it's not easy to implement, but um,
Yeah, I think logistics would be a huge challenge for schools, but I think Dr. Asija can answer that as a follow-up question. So, sir, is it possible that we club students of different classes together based on the competency that we need to develop in them, and then uh, get them involved into activities?
Sir, the age criteria is designed by us, not by CBSE or not by any board. First of all, remember this.
Good.
I did an experiment about a few years back in our Pashimyar branch when I told class 5 students, and I'm coming, class 5 means about 9-year-old child. I told him that you would be going to class 3. Yes, we selected a few children, not everybody. We selected on the basis of their language, communication. Class 5 children. I said, you are going to class 3 and you are teaching them mathematics, English, science, and social studies. I tell you, I am so happy with that experiment which we conducted. It was flawless. Now let's compare this example in today's situation. Class 5 children is this, it's a higher age group, so multi-age group comes. They have learned earlier, that means they had the higher competency, so they picked up earlier. And they were teaching those who had the low competency, they were not exposed to. I would not say that they have low competency because they are not yet exposed to, but in a class of multi-age group. See, this situation would certainly come, especially in rural India. India has right now about 15 lakh schools. All schools are not fully equipped with all logistic what is required. We don't have paraphernalia for that one. Therefore, we have to be ready with all kind of the multiple procedures and processes by which we can ensure that every learner is engaged constructively. If it is to be handled in multi-age group, then let it be multi-age. I just come back to, you know, why I came into teaching profession. Though I have done my specialization in computer science in 1982, when computer was not there. Delhi University had only IBM 371 machine. We used to work on the punch card, give the deck to the operator. Next day, he would give us the result. But why? My mother believed in one particular saint. I used to take my mother to that ashram every Sunday. It was my duty. Thousand and thousand of people were sitting there in that ashram. Moment the saint came on the stage, everybody was so quiet, engrossed fully. And I imagined myself, a teacher has to be like a saint who was strong in communication, who was amazing, inspiring guru, who was content wise, rich in everything, but looking at. He knew the mindset of everyone sitting there, thousand and thousand, 10,000 people sitting. Anyone approached to him, he had a soothing effect for that particular person who's approaching there. No problem of indiscipline, nothing like that. That's why I every time believe in that a teacher has to be like that saint who can do anything. Therefore, I say creator, caretaker, and destroyer. You can make or you can destroy anything. Thus, age will not affect, ma'am, what you are talking about, Aarti, ma'am. Believe it, you have to work out the different strategies. I know you might require some training, some exposure. We all need. And that's why Sharma ji said that if a teacher is a learner, nothing is impossible. Thank you, sir.
So the next question is actually the two questions which are related to what you have just said, that we will have to learn how to do these things. So there are two questions I have. One is from Beena Jalal. Good evening, sir. NEP 2020 has come up with child-centric education. We wish our school seriously implements and trains educator for successful implementation of it. So what can be done in this case precisely? The second question, which is related, is theoretically it's all understood, but what about training the teachers? So if the school wants to, it's
What
good.
is school, sir? What is school? School is nothing but four walls, on a ground. School is made by teachers like Beena. School is made by teachers like Aarti. School is made by leaders like Ap Sharma, sir. It is this group which makes a school. Who says that school will stop your school? Don't wait for the school building to take an initiative. Take a step forward. You be the leader. अगर गांधी जी यही सोचते रहते कि डिफरेंस रहेगा ब्लैक और उसमें, स्लेव सिस्टम में तो रहता, कभी भी हम आजाद ना होते. अगर वो कहते नमक बना रहे हैं तो बनाते रहो. गांधी जी ने तो इतना ही कहा था, हम अपना नमक खुद बनाएंगे. But in all, he said everything. Don't you agree, AP Sharma, sir? School is
Very
Yeah,
correct.
but there is one thing I want to clarify, that what these two people, sir, wanted to know was
ट्रेनिंग कौन करेगा?
in हाँ, मतलब ट्रेनिंग
आप करेंगे, आप करेंगे, एपी शर्मा सर करेंगे, जो लिटिल बिट हम कंट्रीब्यूट कर सकते हैं. जब पीयर टू पीयर कोलैबोरेशन हम बात करते हैं स्टूडेंट की, व्हाई पीयर टू पीयर कोलैबोरेशन इज नॉट देयर अमंगस्ट द टीचर? And you need a guru. Yes, I agree. You need somebody to guide you. Approach people. There are thousands of best of the teachers. I know AP Sharma sir, one of the finest edu administrator. Connect those people. Atulji, you have been doing ICSL from the last 2 years. It's so effectively guiding them. Let people approach, organization, individual who can help them. Hand holding is a part of this journey. This will remain there.
Very, very true. Rajesh sir, I totally agree with you. And very interestingly, Atul sir, if these teachers like Beena ji and other teachers will try to find out in all countries, in all education policies, in this word was written there, child-centric. But it was never child-centric. What was it that whenever they try to implement it, it became teacher-centric. Now the point is how we will do is the best way. Right now the pandemic has done a terrible blessing in disguise is these kind of webinars, and your Herculean task will certainly prove its worth, because many people will come in contact with many such kind of people. Rajesh sir, whatever was telling about me, he is a great person in Indian education. I know him very well. So the basic idea is there should be will to learn. If there is a will, there is a way. Now there are so many MOOC classes, and these MOOC classes, MOOC courses, you can easily do. Like you can do it from Harvard, you can do it from any other course, all edX. If you go on edX and find out such kind of courses which are free of charge. Like in my school, I give example that when I joined, I told the management I want my teachers to study, and they must go out of the box to learn few more things. And then I told that anyone who will be doing any such kind of course, because these are 6 weeks course, 7 weeks course, 5 weeks course, and free of charge. And if you want to get certificate, you have to pay around 5,000 to 6,000 rupees. I said management will pay 5,000 to 6,000 rupees, and we will conduct one test on the basis of your course, and if you will qualify that, we will give you extra increment and something. So basic idea is that Indian education system and teachers had been very close to incentives. The good incentive and the best incentive will be that you will be called a better learner. Even if you don't go for a monetary incentive, you consider that you will be acknowledged by the society, you will be acknowledged by the students.
Yeah.
And this process will go, and people like Atulji and this organization will continue giving such kind of information, knowledge. And I'm sure somewhere in his mind would be having some kind of 5 days, 7 days training course, having people like Rajesh ji and many other educationists who can get into to teach the people, the teachers who are willing to learn.
So we are already doing a program, Mr. Sharma. It's a 3-week program that we do, and in 3 weeks we stress on technology and then pedagogy and assessment, each of the 3 weeks. So it's a 21-day program that we do for teachers. And also, I think, places like this particular platform, for example, next week, the topic of our webinar is killing the rote learning. So, how do we kill the rote learning is the topic of the next webinar. And see, it's very important that when you want to, so I want to just add into those questions. Any professional development program has to also be learner centric, and it also has to be driven by the learner. So at the end of the day, organizations like ICSL, there are many organizations which are making a genuine effort to bring experts to you, to bring knowledge to you. But in today's world, when we are so technologically connected, I think if you want to learn something, nothing can stop you. I think that's the crux. So if you know what you need to learn, you can start from scratch and start learning that immediately. I'll take 2 more questions. Prasun, can you hear me? Can you unmute and go ahead and speak your question? You have raised your hand.
Before that, sir, I will make one statement.
Yes, sir.
In Delhi, in the month of April, I conducted one workshop on design thinking, and by chance, this workshop was the first workshop on design thinking where Mr. Saha, means CBSE, was also. So the one school from the action committee only, Rajesh Asija sir's committee only, there was one Sahodaya group who took the charge of this particular workshop, and they thought that they will do in Zoom. So very first day and second day, there were 2,000, 3,000. All of a sudden, the principal called me, sir, it is going beyond. Can we do with the Microsoft Teams where we have the capacity of 10,000? So if you do something, there were 9,700 people in that particular workshop.
Yeah.
So the interesting thing is, after that, I received so many individual schools, the request that please conduct design thinking in our school also, or from abroad, like Kuwait, I did one, for UAE, I did. So the basic idea is you should have a thrust to learn. If you have thrust to learn, you will find the way.
Yeah.
If there is a will, there is a way.
Absolutely. In today's world, if there's a will, there's a way. Okay, now Tusha is wanted to ask a question. Tusha just removed her question.
No, I have answered her, sir.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, sir. That's wonderful. Okay, so Prasun or Anita Khurana, are you? I think we have already answered. We have Rajni Parab and we have Himanshu. So if any of you guys who have raised your hands, just unmute yourself and please go ahead with your question. Any of you guys, I'll just repeat the name real quick. Himanshu, Anita Khurana, Rajni, Prasun.
Actually, I've answered 3-4 people. I thought when Sharma ji is saying, so I risk.
So sometimes what happens is that people raise their hands, but then they forget that they have raised their hand. So I think we are very close. We have just 6 minutes remaining. So what I would want request from both of you is a closing statement. I think the issue of, we have discussed so many beautiful things. At the end of the day, what we have concluded is that to implement learner-centric pedagogy, the onus lies on the teacher. That's very important. And if they want to learn how to do it, they can do it. There are multiple ways to do it. There are multiple best practices that they can evolve, but there is a time frame that would be required to go from point A to point B. There is always a time frame. We should not expect that something would change tomorrow or instantly, because education and human behavior does not change instantly. uh, the important thing is that we all keep making an effort to progress towards the right direction. So your closing statements on learning and learner centric uh, curriculum and pedagogy. I'll start with Mr. Sharma and then go to Dr. Hazija. Sir,
Yeah,
please.
so I liked Rajesh sir's illustration from Mahabharata. I will take the clue from there only. If somebody thinks that it was Arjun who was the real hero of Mahabharata winning, then people are confused. I think it was Krishna, and it knows everybody. So the Sarthi, जो Sarthi है, वही सब कुछ है. And in this our education system also, teacher is Sarthi. Teacher has to give just the idea that these are the things, and this is the limit, and this is the concept you have to do. Now, I think the personalized learner, where the child has a freedom anytime, anywhere, and anyhow to learn, that will give freedom, and that will give a deeper learning of that particular concept, and the competency will come. Here there are four components. I say by this the child will acquire knowledge, will acquire skills, will acquire disposition, because then whatever child is learning, teacher will ask what you have learned, so you will be able to dispose of. And the last thing is the experiences. It is very important that in social environment, the adaptability should be there with every child. Whatever he is learning, he should be able to acquire knowledge, apply knowledge, as well as to see that how he can create the knowledge. And that way, I think I will go a step forward from the learner centric to make it more personalized learner centric, where we say that the more freedom is given to a child. And I'm really very pleased to see the kind of questions teachers are asking. Salute to you. But next time, ask questions and come over here and ask, because we will be very happy to answer your questions. And by this, our knowledge and our horizon is also spreaded. And my compliments to Mr. Nishil that here I could find out few things to tell, and like this word of prognosis, I have used it third time, and the professor from Nottingham would like it anything, but before he accepted it, he talked to me for 1 hour. After I convinced him about this with various examples, then he said, yes, diagnosis and prognosis is a very good idea to put it into education. So my idea is that right from today, when you think, try that from where you can learn.
Thank you,
Rather,
sir. Thank you very much.
I must say you have already started being in this particular, the seminar. Thank
Right.
you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you very much. Dr. Hazija, your closing comments.
I would say two things. I'm very fond of these two things, which I'll say. Uh, if you travel from place to place, and I'm now coming to the example of the potter, they are using the wheel to shape the rock clay into the different pots and different designs. Somewhere the clay is very soft, like in Uttar Pradesh. So they use a gentle hand to structure and shape the clay. But before structuring, tampering, they put inside that clay a hand of love, warmth, care, support. Whereas you move to when Rajasthan, it comes to a sandy soil, there they are using a stick while using a potter, because sand otherwise lose the density very fast. So they have to grip it for a longer time. And when you go to the rocky place beyond Madhya Pradesh, there they use hammer to chisel it. So it is the same pot being made, but the clay is different. the clay, which is called the soft soil in Uttar Pradesh or in Haryana or in Rajasthan or coming to the Madhya Pradesh. So, my dear educators, you are having a different clay in the classroom, which has a different ability, different potential, different age, both intellectual age, I'm talking, as well as physical age. So you have to handle in a best possible way. And how you handle it, whatever example I say, but I come back to that story of Akbar and Birbal, कि अकबर ने बीरबल से पूछा कि कौन सा हथियार सबसे अच्छा, which method is the best weapon is the best weapon, and he says that joke वक्त पे काम आए. Akbar said, I don't believe it. He said, prove it in 10 days time. Okay ji. And one day morning they were having a stall outside the garden. तभी वहां सामने एक पागल हाथी भागा हुआ आ रहा. अकबर ने बीरबल से कहा, बीरबल सिपाहियों से तो रुक नहीं रहा, कुछ करो. बीरबल ने कहा, साहब आपके पास तो वो तोपे हैं, वो चला दो. कहा, बीरबल मजाक नहीं करो, इस समय कौन तोपे चलेगी, ये हमको मार देगा. बीरबल सॉ ए पपी साइड में था, उसने उसको उठाया और हाथी पे मारा. हाथी के माथे पे जैसे ही वो पपी लगा, वो उसकी आवाज से, उसके टच से हाथी ने डायरेक्शन बदल ली, वो दूसरी तरफ चला गया. अकबर ने कहा, बीरबल आज तुमने जान बचा ली. बीरबल ने कहा, आई टोल्ड the one which you can use at the time of need is the best weapon. So dear educators, you have knowledge. You need one, a hand holding. Sharma ji already said, ICSL is already doing. There are other companies are available. Number one, have somebody who can guide you. Number two, believe in yourself. Believe in yourself. That belief only come when you have got exposed to different methodology. Go into the class with the notion that these children are looking for something from you, and you are their creator and caretaker. You have to help them to become something. हर पत्थर की तस्वीर संवर सकती है. Every stone can be turned into a statue of God. शर्त ये है करीने से संवारा जाए. You have to chisel it in a right way. Thank you, Atul ji.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much. And in the end, I'm going to leave you with two things to learn when you are designing your learner-centric approach, learner-centric pedagogy. Please keep in mind that you are designing it for digital natives. These learners think differently. Go to the internet and do some search on how digital natives learn, and you will be amazed that there is research that proves that the traditional pedagogy does not work for digital natives. So we need new pedagogies, and that's very important. The second important thing is learn about the connectivist theory of learning. The new age kids, the new learning has evolved. We are in a connected world, connected by internet, connected by information, and connectivist theory of learning is what you will need to incorporate in your pedagogy moving forward. So do some R&D, do some research, do some learning. If you get an answer, share it with us. Or if you have a question, you can always write to info@icsl.org.in. And if you are interested in learning how to kill rote learning, come back next Friday, 5 o'clock. The most elegant way to end all week and start a new weekend where we leave you with good food of thought so that you can have a bright weekend. So thank you very much for joining us.